As we get older, we putting on muscles harder. Women tend to think that just because I did it in my 20s and my 30s, I can do the same things. I can eat the same, I can exercise the same, and it's still gonna work for me. That really doesn't happen. And the hardest part is it's not gonna be the same every year. It changes all the time. What worked last year doesn't work this year. Then you also have, well, my sister's on this diet. My sister does this workout. I'm not seeing the same results. We all have different bodies, we have different chemistries. It's all gonna react different. It's more than just the workout or just the diet. Sleep is important, rest is important, stress management is important. And it's the only way that you're gonna maintain muscle and build muscle. You can't do that with cardio, you can't do that with walking.
Let's say someone is not particularly physically active. They are hearing the value of strength training, why it's so important. Give me your top reasons why you think strength training is probably one of the most important things women can do at this stage of life.
So,
Linda, I've been telling my community for a while that we were going to record a podcast together, and I'm so glad we were able to make it happen.
Thank you for having me. Yes, it's fun.
Well, as I said to you before, it's like we're training together, but we're now in like my world,
right?
As opposed to you telling me what to do and exercise. Talk to me about some of the unique challenges you see with women north of 35. So women that are in perimenopause and menopause. And to give listeners some perspective, you've been doing personal training and working with women for a long time.
Yeah,
so you've got a breadth of experience that'll be particularly relevant to this conversation.
Yeah. Women, as we get older, we putting on muscles harder, and women tend to think that just because I did it in my 20s and my 30s that I can do the same things. I can eat the same, I can exercise the same, and it's still gonna work for me. Whereas that really doesn't happen. I mean, once, the hormones change, then our body uses energy different. And so we have to try and figure out different ways to get the goal, or figure out what we really want to achieve, and then try different ways to do it. And the hardest part is it's not going to be the same every year. It changes all the time. And so what worked last year doesn't work this year. So it's just a lot of stuff. So that's, I think, the biggest thing is that their expectations. And then you also have, well, my sister's on this diet and my sister does this workout and I'm not seeing the same results. And again, same thing. It's like we all have different bodies. We have different chemistries. It's all going to react different. It's more than just the workout or just the diet. It's the other things that we're doing, the other, hours of the day that make a big difference as far as, what we want our body to look like or how it reacts. I mean, sleep is important, rest is important, stress management is important. And it's not just the workout. That's kind of my tagline. It's not just a workout, it's a lifestyle. And that's really what you have to kind of encompass to see the changes that you want year after year after year.
Well, and I think you bring up so many good points. First of all, bioindividuality is really important here. What works for your best friend, your sister, your husband, your spouse, or whomever doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to garner the same results. Number two, it is more than just the 30, 60 minutes you spend exercising. It's everything you do for the rest of your 23 hours that probably moves the needle the most or not.
Right. Yes.
And then lastly, understanding that what we did in our 20s, 30s, or even 40s may no longer work. I know that I work very differently now than I did even 10 years ago.
Same.
And so I think that it's both validating and also probably giving people a little bit of a kick in the rear end to realize that you have to change what you're doing. You can't do the same workout. I reflect back on what I was doing 10 years ago is a great deal more intensity, those conditioning classes, right, and, spinning and getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I think about, was I kind to my body? No, probably not kind to my body.
Right.
And now I'm a whole lot more cognizant
Right.
of what I'm doing, because I realize how much more important it is. If someone's listening and let's say someone is not particularly physically active, they are hearing on my podcast and others the value of strength training, why it's so important. From your perspective, give me your top couple of reasons why you think strength training is probably one of the most important things women can do at this stage of life.
Well, one, it's the only way that you're going to maintain muscle and build muscle. You can't do that with cardio. You can't do that with walking. So strength training, I tell people that if they only have, first of all, how many hours in the week can you train? If they've got, I can train 3 hours a week, well, then all they're doing is strength training. And that's what's going to move the needle. Again, like I said before, you're kind of antibiotic resistant to for your body. And so you have to do things differently. Strength training is going to maintain and build the muscle, but it's also going to make you feel better. Your joints, your bones are going to be stronger. Your joints are going to be more loose, more mobile, and your balance is going to get better. All those things we need as we age, and those are the things we lose. And so cardio is great. It's great for your heart. I'm never going to tell anybody that they shouldn't be doing cardio, especially most people nowadays are doing it for their head space more than anything else. But strength training is definitely the one thing, if you're going to do anything, to start with. And it doesn't have to be 2 hours in the gym. You just have to do basic movements, compound movements, start out light, and as we progress, and we can get heavier and heavier, but you just got to keep it simple. And I think a lot of people make it super hard, super complicated, right? Like, they want to do this and that and this and that. And it's just like, let's start with strength. And then we can add and build from there.
It's interesting. I had a conversation last week with Dr. Andy Galpin, who's, this leading exercise physiologist, scientist, and just so nice and down to earth. And one of the things that he said to me that really struck me, and then you said something to me this past week, there's something that is not emphasized enough with children. He was saying, there's a lot of focus on women and peak bone building and muscle mass building. But he said, we don't encourage our children to exercise enough. And he said, what children do between the ages of 6 and 12 sets up their bone health for the rest of their lives. So if they're sitting in front of the TV and they're using gaming devices and they're not physically active, they will never learn to lay down healthy bones. So that's number one. Something you said to me earlier this week that I think is also relevant was the discussion that a lot of women never learned how to move their bodies.
Yes.
Talk to us about what that means from your kind of physiology, kinesiology perspective, because I would agree with you that I think whether it's generational or just overall, maybe women weren't as encouraged as young men to be physical, to play outside, to run and jump and do all these things that we take for granted kids are learning. You're finding that a lot of women never learned to do any of those things when they were younger.
Exactly. Yeah, I train strictly women, I should say mostly women now. And the age group 15 plus, they didn't have organized sports back in the day. Even when I was growing up, I didn't have a lot. My dad taught me how to throw a ball and all of that. Played with the boys, and I was always moving, always. But the women that I also taught tennis. And so watching them try to serve I could tell in a minute that they have never done anything. And I think a lot of it is generational, saying that, you were a tomboy if you were out playing sports or whatever. And then again, there were no organized sports or activities for girls And so they just didn't do it. And then when I first started training, there weren't a lot of women in the gyms because, again, they have that false information of I'm going to get big and bulky, and they're afraid that they're going to look like a man. And it's so I just think we've had a lot of misinformation, and then just not a lot of opportunities back when I was growing up.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me because I was thinking about that. You know, your comment, Andy's comment in the context of bone health, the lack of physical education. Yeah. He was asking me, he's like, how many days a week do you remember your boys were doing physical education? And I said, gosh, it's been a while. But I do recall they had it at least a few days a week, but my kids were always in sports. Like they were always in organized sports. They were always moving, always active. But I acknowledge that might not be the norm. And now he indicated his children have it once a week. Oof. And he said that's not enough to be able to lay down healthy bone, not to mention, you know, just the mapping of being able to move your body in time and space. I grew up in a time where we had Mr. Wall. So Mr. Wall was our PE teacher in elementary school. And we did everything. Like when I tell you, we climbed up ropes, nice. We went over the pommel horse. I mean, it didn't matter we were athletic or not. We did it. And so I recall, I have to give him props. He's probably now deceased, but he had all of us, boys, girls, doing everything. And he didn't care if you didn't want to do it. You did it. If you didn't want to climb up the rope, you climbed up the rope because he would fail you. But I think that is unique. And I probably grew up in a time where, you know, where I lived in New Jersey, I was expected to play sports. My parents, they didn't care if I was any good at it, but I had to play sports. And I remember by the time I got to high school, it was field hockey because there was no lacrosse. And that was kind of they left me alone if I played if I played field hockey. But I think for a lot of people, we assume people have had the benefits of organized sports or, you know, parents that are physically active, and that might not be the case. So I would imagine when you're assessing your one-on-one clients, you're getting a sense of how they can move their bodies in time and space. And I would imagine there are listeners that are saying, you know, how do I move my body safely if I'm someone that maybe hasn't been particularly physically active? Walk us through how you evaluate a new client. I know you namely now work one-on-one, you do have some group stuff, but how do you evaluate a new client in terms of how they move, how flexible they are, how confident they are moving their body? Because that's also a piece of this, is that some of us are just not confident or comfortable moving our bodies.
Right. Yes. I generally start out with an assessment where we'll sit down first and we'll have a conversation. I go through a lot of questions. What have you done in the past? And most people think I'm saying, what type of exercise have you done in the past? And the question I always ask, did you play sports in high school? Did you do anything in high school? Just to see if they've had anything, because a lot of times they haven't. And so right away I know, okay, this person I might have to walk it through a little bit more and just make sure that they're comfortable with their body and movement. After that, after we've had a talk, make sure that they don't have any injuries and stuff, I take them through a short evaluation where I just kind of go through some exercises, ask them if they can get up and down off the floor.
By the way, this is something that is very important to Linda.
Yes.
You're on and off the floor a lot.
A lot. Yes. I even have my 80 and 90-year-old clients doing that because it is important. But, I want to make sure that they're comfortable with it first, because there's many times I've had women that are not comfortable getting on the floor. And so I just have to make sure that, okay, that's one thing. That's the first thing we're going to work on. So I'll take them through some movement patterns, making sure that to see how their hips move and how their shoulders are and their ankles, because those are the basic joints that we get that I can tell if they're too tight or too loose for some people. And then I watch them walk, like I'll have them do like a kind of a gait analysis, not to see if they're walking correctly, but just see how they kind of walk in motion, see what their movement patterns are, and see maybe sometimes even if there's an imbalance, because sometimes I can see that. I'm not certified in being a physical therapist or anything, but I can tell a lot of times, I've been doing this long enough that I can tell that if someone's had a knee injury or had an ankle injury, that it tends to jack up one side. And so we'll kind of look at that, because if you're in the conversation at first, people don't remember that they've had an injury, or they don't, they think, oh, that was so long ago, it doesn't matter. They don't realize how that affects their body year after year if they don't take care of it. So I'm looking for how they can get up and down, kind of if they can do movement patterns, if anything hurts when I do something. I try not to give too many cues so that I can see kind of really what happens. And then I can fix that as we get into the sessions, the real sessions.
Yeah, I would imagine it must be incredibly kind of insightful to just observe patterns. And I think even in my type of work, I enjoy watching people. And then I kind of like, understanding, like, even for myself, I have one hip that is tighter than the other, which I think I told you up front, but it's not just that hip. It's also that ankle is a little less flexible. And so we start to understand that it's not just the joint itself. You have fascia, you have all this interplay, probably one area where you have an injury or have had an injury in the past. Your body might be guarding itself. It might, lend itself to little clues that you're picking up on. So you walk people through that piece. And I know that we've laughed about this or chuckled about this before, that people want to go from like that to lifting really heavy because that's what they've been told is really important. The stepwise approach, it's body weight, then you go to lighter weights and heavier weights. I would imagine every person is unique. Every person, you adapt the plan based on their needs, whether they've, sleep deprived, didn't go to bed till really late, didn't sleep well, whatever it is that happens. What are the cues when you're working with someone that they're ready to progress to a heavier weight? Like, what are the things that clue you in? I'm sure you probably have a gestalt as you're watching them.
Right.
But inevitably, these are the kinds of questions that I receive that I always say, let me ask the experts who actually do this kind of work.
Right.
But what's the clue that someone's ready to increase the weight that they're working with?
Making sure the movement pattern is smooth, that they're not lifting, shifting to one side. And you're right. A lot of people want to go right to that heavy weight, because this is what the buzzword is now, that we have to lift heavy weights, and which is great. We'll get there, but it's mostly how they're moving through that movement pattern, making sure it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be pretty consistent, and it has to be pain-free.
And what role does mindset play? Because I would probably imagine that people think it's just the physicality, but it's actually the mindset piece that is critically important, especially as it pertains to lifestyle changes and lifestyle management.
Yes. Mindset is huge. I mean, one of the questions I ask people is why they want to do this. What is the reason? And I would say the majority of women are going to say, I want to lose weight. I'm like, great. Why? And then they say, because, I want to look better in my clothes. Why? And I keep going why until I get a deeper answer, because losing weight is not a great reason to work out, because they're not going to do it then. They'll just go, whatever, I'll do. So I won't eat tonight. And so I'll do, that way I won't be gaining any weight because I didn't have any calories. That's another story. But you have to get down to the deep why, and then figure out, what that trigger is. So when we're working out, and they get kind of whiny, and they start to find excuses of why they don't want to set up another appointment. It's like, okay, let's go back to why you did this. So you're saying it could be an event, it could be just getting down to play with your grandkids, is this helping you get to your goal? You taking the week off because you don't feel like it. And motivation is kind of waning. If you have a reason why, then you're going to find yourself to stick to it a little bit more. And then the other thing with that is people tend to bite off more than they can chew. So for lifestyle stuff, they think, okay, I'm going to work out. I'm going to redo my nutrition. I'm going to get 10 hours of sleep, and I'm going to, and it just never happens. So if I can pick, like, what's most important to you right now, Let's stick with that and make sure that they get these small wins, because the small wins build, and then we can go, okay, great. Let's try this. Let's move on to this. And yeah, it's not just about lifting weight. It's the mindset of why you're doing it, the true reason, because otherwise you won't stick to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that clarity is so important. I mean, I think about what brought me to you last summer was I just buried my dad. Mm-hmm. I will be on the same path to what he's on if I don't maintain and build muscle mass. And so that was such a powerful clarity of, why and intentionality. And I think for each one of us, we have to, it doesn't have to be that dramatic. Exactly. Let me just be very clear. That was very dramatic why, but I think for each one of us, it needs to be deeper than I have a class reunion.
Right.
My kid's getting married.
These pants. Yeah.
Right. I want to get back into the pants I wore when I was 18, which I kind of always say, most, if not all of us were probably underweight at 18, at least back in the old days. Mm-hmm. Now, when I think about the role of nutrition, I think this is undervalued both in traditional allopathic medicine. I would imagine most of the fitness industry, it's probably also undervalued. I know that we've chuckled about this in conversations when we've been working together. Do you have any themes that you think are important for women in terms of like high level themes, not rigid dogmatism, like you must be low carb or you must be keto or you must be carnivore, but like what are some of the Linda tenets for nutrition that you think are important?
Great question, because I'm not, nutrition is not my favorite. Okay.
I know that's why I'm picking on you.
Yeah, I know. That's great. But people make it so complicated. It can be as simple as eating real food. Mm-hmm. My big thing is making sure you have lean proteins at every meal, fruits and vegetables at every meal, fruits and or vegetables at every meal. If you look at your plate and it doesn't have protein on it, it's not a meal. If it doesn't have fruits or vegetables on it, it's not a meal. So trying to get 30 grams of protein per meal. I think women over 50 are very much under protein. And as we age, we need more. We just can't metabolize it as well as we did. So we just need more. And so if we can stick to 3 meals, you don't need to, that myth of you have to eat every 2 hours, you're not a baby. You need to empty your stomach and then refill it. And I think people would be a lot happier if they could just basic things. Lean protein, fruits and vegetables, water, healthy fats. Boom. That's all you need.
What are your thoughts on alcohol?
I have a lot. Well, see, I still drink alcohol. I don't drink a lot anymore. It doesn't do me well, especially the next day. And I don't like how it makes me feel. And I know people are going to drink, and I'm not telling them they can't. That is their decision. It affects a lot. Mm-hmm. I mean, it makes a big difference on how your workout's going to be the next day, how your nutrition's going to be. You make some poor choices sometimes just by having a glass of wine. Yeah. The biggest thing I hear is, I deserve this glass of wine because I've had such a hard day. I get it. Life is tough, but find a different way. Go for a walk. That's a better use of your body and it's better for you than that glass of wine. Again, I don't care if you drink. I would say most of my clients do, and I'm fine with it, and I do too. But I limit it. You don't have to have a drink at every dinner. Save a glass for the weekend. It's a personal choice. I have tried to steer clients off of that, but that's like, sometimes it's just like, that's the one thing I'm not giving up. I'm like, okay, then you need to know the realistic truth about how your training is going to be, how your body's going to look, how you're going to feel, if that's what you want. I'm not saying you can't have it, but you may have to, change your expectations a bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's always with the understanding of the challenges that I see around alcohol intake. And I choose not to drink just because my sleep gets wrecked.
Right.
Number one, I see a lot of women that are weight loss resistant solely because they drink too often and too much. Yes. That's number one. Number two, some people still aren't making the connection that when they drink alcohol, their sleep suffers. Right. And if they're really struggling with sleep, I'm like, maybe we just try a reprieve on this. Maybe you have alcohol once a month instead of, a couple times a week. Number three is just looking at the data. I think for each one of us, whether it's having an occasional glass of alcohol, whether it's having a sweet treat, whether it's foregoing exercise, whether it's not prioritizing sleep, we all make choices. We're all adults, right? I just think it's one of these things that it's like many conversations. It's like, let's just have the conversation and then you're an adult and you make the choice. And so I think that's important. I would be remiss if we didn't bring up intermittent fasting.
Yes.
I know that we've had lots of conversations around this. I've been very transparent with my community that for me personally, trying to put on muscle and intermittent fasting are not a good mix. Nope. And so I know that you have strong opinions about this, and I would love for you to share your thoughts around intermittent fasting. Is it a reasonable strategy if someone's not metabolically healthy and needs to lose weight? Or for you in your world, is the muscle piece so important that you're going to encourage people to do like 12 hours of digestive rest instead?
Yeah, exactly that. It's just too hard to get your protein intake in those limited hours. And then I just think it's very hard to eat correctly when you're doing intermittent fasting. Is it a good idea for some people? Yes. But they have to know what they're giving up instead. And for, like you said, I think muscle, especially over 50, as you just lose muscle so quickly, that is an absolutely, I'm never gonna not eat my protein. It's not that important for me to do the intermittent fasting, even though it helps for other things. The muscle is more important, I think, overall for my health, for most women's health. That is the key. 8 to 10 window, great, okay? But then we have to look at what you're eating also. So dial in your nutrition a little bit better. Go back to what I said. Eating lean protein in every meal, fruits and vegetables. Keep it simple that way, but don't get so hung up on, I've only got 6 hours that I can eat. Well, how are you gonna get 90 grams, 120 grams of protein in 6 hours? You're going to feel miserable. So I think muscle's more important.
Yeah.
And your sleep. So I think you can do the 10 to 12 and you'd be okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. You were very gracious when we first met because you knew what my background was and you did not poke that bear. I just transparently said, I don't think I'm able to eat enough protein in 8 hours. And so, 10 to 12 hours is what it became. And that is now kind of my norm. Now I will transparently share with my community that the past 2 weekends I was traveling, and guess what happens when I'm at business events? I don't eat because I want to be in a fasted state while I'm speaking because my brain is, running at 150%. And then while I'm talking all day long to people, I'm not thinking about eating. And so I can tell you by the time I got home at 12:30 a.m. on Sunday night, because of lots of flight delays, the first thing I thought was, oh my God, I've literally not eaten enough for 3 days in a row, not had enough hydration, not eaten enough. This is not good for me at all. So I think that for everyone that's listening, really looking at what your goals are, really being clear about your goals, I think is so, so important. Talk to us about recovery, because I think that this is probably not emphasized enough. And yet I certainly have learned through you how important that is, not to be working out intensely and then turning back the next day and doubling back on the same muscle groups. How important is recovery?
It's huge, especially as we age. Your body just doesn't recover as quickly. And I think we're overtired and overstressed already. And so the recovery is so important. And I am a recovery junkie. I have all the tools. I love it. Like, I love a good sauna. I love red light therapy. I've got compression boots. So if I do a really heavy day, then and I've spent all day on my feet, I know I can throw those on and I'm feeling so much better. I train most of my clients. We're not going back to back as far as same muscle group, so that your body has a chance to recover. Yeah, it's more important than people think, and it's not just sleep. You know, you can have active recovery. You can go for a walk. That's not really gonna put you in overload. Maybe if you're going 10 miles or you're hiking, you know, different terrains and stuff, that might be something different. But if you are not getting any type of recovery because you feel like you need to do spin class every day, and then we're going to go run, and then we're going to go do the aerobics class, and you know your body's just already just overloaded, and that's just going to just create more havoc for your body, and it's just going to kind of put you in that where you're storing fat. You know, you're kind of in that zone where, oh my God, your body's like, I don't know what's happening, and I've got to preserve all my fat and food. And so I'm just going to keep in this survival mode while you're going crazy on your cardio machines.
Yeah. No, it's interesting that, you know, the role of hormesis or beneficial stress in the right amount at the right time. It's amazing to me how conscientious I am now. But there were years where I was doing, 2 to 3 spin classes a week and these really hardcore conditioning classes. And I was sore all the time. I wasn't sleeping well. To your point about cortisol is not a bad hormone. It gets a bad rap. But for a lot of people, they're not giving themselves enough downtime or recovery time. And so I think at least 48 hours in between strength training sessions, I think are certainly really important. Having active recovery days, that could be the day, like my neighborhood is a good example. I can get zone 2, zone 3, and zone 4 training just walking up and down hills. I don't have to do a whole lot of extra stuff for recovery or even for zone 2. And so I think that for each one of us, it's figuring out how to make it all fit into our schedule.
Right.
I acknowledge maybe there's more flexibility in some people's schedules versus others, and that's okay. But really focusing in on strength training, I think, is key. I got a lot of questions for you. And so I thought it would be fun to start going through some of these. Some of these are specific, some are non-specific.
Okay.
Someone said, this is Lisa, how to structure workouts with severe degenerative disc disease in a 58-year-old woman. Okay.
First of all, you're going to work on more stabilization, not a lot of flexing, a lot of bending. I would put them on a program that's either 2 to 4 days a week, full body, so that they're not taxing one muscle too much. So they're just kind of hitting the body every day, but I won't get into program design. But that way that they're, if you do a lower body day and then an upper body day and then a full body day, that might be too much for their back or for their, for their disc and stuff. So I would say work on stability, work on the smaller muscles, not
accessory
the bigger muscles.
Yeah,
not the ones that show. We want the ones underneath. Those are the ones that are going to be more important for your stability, your balance and stuff like that. Work on the hips. The glutes are huge when it comes to your stability and your balance. And so that would be kind of the center that I would work with. But stability first, and then glutes second, and then strength.
What about people that have hypermobility? When they tell you that they're hypermobile, and this is a spectrum. It goes from, because technically, I'm hypermobile, but when I think of hypermobility, I think of the extremes that I saw when I was in my training. The people who they're double jointed. Right. They frequently have joint issues because they're so hypermobile, they will sometimes dislocate joints. Right. So there are extremes to this, but how do you go about training people that you perceive are very hypermobile? Again, same thing.
It's strengthening the smaller muscle groups, keeping the shoulders intact. That's generally where they feel it the most, our shoulders. Not going through the full range, because sometimes, or going over past the range. Like if you're doing a chest press, you know, you're going way back here, or, you know, sometimes for shoulders, sometimes you just can't lock out elbows, you can't lock out knees. So it's a little bit more not through the full range, working the smaller muscle groups. And then we concentrate again on the hips and the back and the chest, bigger muscles after that. So
makes so much sense.
yeah, that's what I would do.
All right. We've got questions that run the gamut here. This is a question from someone who did not give me their name. I'm strength training 3 times a week to lose skin from weight loss. I'm 50. Will I lose the flab? I know this is kind of broad.
Yeah.
Can I also build my glutes? So this is a multi-layered question.
Okay. Well, flab is not fat, so
I guess she probably has stretched skin. I'm assuming
that's not fat. I mean, will it go away completely? Depending on how much there is.
Probably depends on how much collagen and elastin they have in their skin. And at 50, you're, late perimenopause, beginning of menopause.
Right, that's going to be tough. Definitely adding muscle is going to help.
Yep.
So you're going to look toner. You're going to, fill in that skin a little bit more. As far as the booty, absolutely. I mean, we can, again, going back to really concentrating on the glutes and the hamstrings, but doing it safely. You have to do some type of progressive overload to do any type of muscle building. So you just get a good program that's working overload in the glute area, but you don't want to just specifically the glute area. That's going to be a huge imbalance. So find a trainer that can do, someone who can teach you how to, not only the glutes, but the quads. And
when we use that term progressive overload, help listeners understand what that specifically speaks to.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to get the muscle to slight fatigue, okay? You want to get a heavy enough weight that you can still control it, but is going to be hard the last couple of reps. And so meaning you don't want to use your 5-pound pink dumbbells to do your overhead press. That's not gonna change the structure of your shoulders. It's you need a heavier weight. Same with the quads. You're going to have to use a heavier weight so that you can kind of stimulate the growth of that muscle, and you can't do that with lighter weights. There's a place for lighter weights, at the beginning and stuff like that. But if you're looking for body composition to change, then you have to do some type of progressive overload.
Thank you for that explanation, because I think sometimes people are like, what does that mean?
What does that mean? Yeah, we hear it, but.
What is now again, general question, what is a fast but effective total body workout at the gym for a more mature woman? I know that's kind of broad, but maybe, the push-pull kind of conversation.
So I would say there's like the big 5. You've got to do some type of squat, either it being a goblet squat or a body weight squat, or if you're not even there, you can do a sit to stand, okay, which is a great one I use for older people. Do an upper body push. And for most people starting out, if they've never done anything, I would put them on a chest press or a bench press, doing lighter dumbbells. Push up is a little bit hard for most people to start with, unless they're doing it against the wall. Some type of hinge movement, like a deadlift, a bridge, those type of things. And then the upper body pull. So we're doing like, say, a seated row, okay? And then a core. And I like a dead bug. It's one of my favorites.
Yes, you do.
Yes, it's a great core exercise. It's great. It works both the obliques and then the entire ab section. So those would be the big 5 that I would kind of do. And you do 8 to 12 reps on those. Do that. Complete those, each 5 of those 3 times, and it's a good place to start, and it's pretty easy.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to the theme of keeping things simple. Like, I think in many ways, there are well-meaning people out there that overcomplicate their workout regimens. And by that, I mean, it's no fault of their own. It's like, if you're not a personal trainer or you're not particularly savvy in the gym, you're really dependent on someone else creating a program, but the program needs to make sense for you.
For you, yes.
Can you build muscle on a low carb, high protein diet? Do you have anyone that's on low carb right now?
No. Yeah. Again, carb has a bad name. If you're eating complex carbohydrates, eat as many as you can, but those are going to be lower in numbers. But low carb tends to put your body into more stress. And so I think, yes, high protein, wonderful.
Yep.
And maybe if you did the low carbs on days that you're not really strength training or doing any type of HIIT, if it's more of a recovery day, then that's fine. But I'm not a big fan of the high carb, low carb cycles. I know it works, and it works for some people. I don't think carb cycling works for people over 50 because, again, it's putting too much stress, and we're already in stress overload.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I think my thought process on carbohydrates has really evolved. I've never been ketogenic, but I have talked about low carb. But even when I was low carb, I wasn't like 20 grams of carb or 30 grams of carb. And so I think if you're on a day you're more physically active, I think you can ratchet up your carbohydrate intake. If you're not metabolically healthy, you're not insulin sensitive, then you do need to be mindful of your carbohydrate intake. Right. But I'm not necessarily saying that you have to be ketogenic. No. I just think you have to be mindful. So like high quality carbohydrates, things that have fiber, green leafy vegetables, low glycemic berries, those are all good options. Right. It does not mean going and having 5 pounds of Wonder Bread and, a couple cups of pasta. Like those aren't the things that are really going to do us any benefits at this stage of the game. More questions about carbohydrates. It's kind of funny. This is from Jackie. Do you alternate between hypertrophy training and purely strength training or combine them?
I generally combined. I'll start out with most people with, the higher reps and lower weight, higher reps just to get them comfortable with the movements and stuff like that. And then I will go to more of the pure strength after that. Now, if someone's been training with me for a while, I also can do where we'll take the main movement that we're doing that day. So, for example, a deadlift or a squat, and we'll do that 5 reps for 5 rounds. And then the rest of the workout is more 8 to 10 or 6 to 8, depending on kind of where we're at. I change reps throughout the period, anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks on a program. Just because your body gets used to it too, and you got to mix it up a little bit. So, and again, you go back to what their goals are, what are they looking for, and where they are at that moment. I would not put a beginner on strictly strength. That just doesn't make sense, but they will get there eventually. Yeah.
What are the exercises your clients complain about the most?
Besides burpees?
I was going to say burpees for sure.
But I don't have a lot of private clients doing burpees.
Yeah. I hate burpees, which you know that.
The core exercises tend to be the ones that people don't like. Squats they're fine with because they know they're going to get a squat. They know they're going to get a deadlift. Push-ups they don't like. Women don't like overhead press. Stuff that are hard. Yeah, stuff that's hard. But I would say core exercises are probably the one that
people complain about.
And that's probably because most people are weakest there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they feel it.
Yeah, I have to credit solid core. That's and Pilates for many years. Definitely, my core isn't my problem. Okay,
you still don't like it.
I don't. Well, it depends. It depends. Sometimes you have it at the end, so it's like by then I'm
most
fatigued.
Of the time I started with it.
Sometimes it's at the end, and I'm like, oh, now I'm sore. Okay, this is a mindset question. This is from Alexandra. I've been training with a trainer to get muscle. I'm 42. But I don't feel good about myself. And because there was a limited amount of character, I'm not sure if she means I don't feel good because I'm not yet building muscle, or if I don't feel good about mindset piece. How would you address that kind of statement from a 42-year-old that is working on building muscle?
Well, first, I would ask, what do you feel like you should feel like right now? Where do you think you should be? And because I think people have expectations that they're going to start with strength training, and then immediately they're going to, have this wonderful body and they're going to feel great. And I just don't, I think you got to go a little bit deeper. Is it the personal trainer that's making her feel bad or about herself, or is it her self-talk? So again, how does she talk to herself about how her body looks? I think women are really hard on themselves. I mean, I can say that I've been there too, and I have days where I'm there too. But this, what is it that you want to feel? Where do you think you should be? What are her expectations? And where is she in her training phase? Is she just started lifting weights and she's not feeling good about her body? Or is it that she feels like, it's not working? There's a lot of follow-up questions I would ask. But mostly, how does she expect that she should be feeling right now? I think it would be the first question I would ask.
Yeah, and I think it's important to be conscientious about who you choose to work with, because at different points in my life, like when I was in my 30s, I remember I seemed to just have male trainers who were great, but do they really understand? And it's not to suggest, let me be very clear.
Yes.
There are absolutely male trainers who can do a great job with women. I'm just saying in my 30s, I didn't know the things to ask. And so I think that when you want to work with a trainer, I think that you have to be conscientious about what your goals are, what your expectations are, and to see if that matches with the person you're meeting with, because I think there are unique needs to every stage of life. Women that are still in the childbearing age and maybe might be lactating or might be trying to conceive, that very different goals and needs than a 45-year-old, 50, 55-year-old or older. When potential clients come to you, what are some of the most common questions you're asked while they're trying to determine if it's a good fit?
One, how hard I'll be on them.
I didn't ask you that.
You didn't ask me that. But, they want to know who I've trained and what's my experience. And have you ever been overweight? That's a question I get a lot, is have you ever been overweight? And unfortunately, no. So it's hard for me to answer that question. But they want to know if I can be empathetic to where they are. And I think I've been training for 40 years. I've seen a lot of things, and I think I've been in every situation with women, and it's just a matter of making them feel comfortable. And
absolutely.
I always have them ask questions. Please ask me questions, because I don't want them to feel like I'm judging them. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that this is the first thing,
safe
especially
space.
when nutrition comes involved, it's like, there's no judgment here.
Yeah. Safe space.
I just want to make sure that you're okay. And we're going to communicate well. I think they're looking for, how can you help me? How long is this going to take?
For the rest of your life.
Yeah, exactly. And, and cost, of course. But yeah, I think the biggest one is, when will I see results? Will I be able to see this in 3 months? And, I have to be kind of truthful when you're only with me maybe an hour or 2 hours a week. I don't know what you're doing the rest of the week. You can tell me that you're eating the way you should be. You're, getting out and you're doing your walks. You're not drinking, 3 glasses of wine at night and stuff like that. So it's a variable. It depends on how well, going back to your why, how bad do you want this, that to see change. So it's more, the biggest thing is, when am I going to see results?
Yeah. And it's hard for people to know that even if they're not intrinsically seeing a change on the number on the scale or the size of their pants, every time you're making that investment in yourself, you're really making long-term gains. It's just hard to be patient. Like, don't I jokingly say that? Like, I'm not a very patient person. I think that a lot of women are fearful to start exercising. I think that we are conditioned to be such givers. We're the primary caretakers of everyone in our lives. And it's sometimes hard to say, I'm going to make this investment in myself. And instead of doing other things, this is really important, and I need to carve this time out. I need to preserve this time. I jokingly say to Linda, I'm like, you're part therapist, because sometimes I'm just venting. I'm just venting about my day, but it's my way of kind of venting while I'm exercising. So to me, it's a little bit of therapy.
Right, it's cathartic.
I would imagine that I'm probably not the only client that does that.
I've heard a lot of A lot of things. And it's funny when you talk about, trying to figure out time. I just had that conversation with my oldest daughter that she's got a 5-month-old baby and a 3-year-old daughter. And she's trying to figure out how she's going to find time once she goes back to work. Mm-hmm. When am I going to do this? I'm like, you carve out the time.
Yeah.
I always did. Your kids don't know you've been gone an extra 30, 45 minutes. The concept of time for them doesn't matter, but it matters to you. Mm-hmm. And that is so important. And you have to make that investment in you. And I think a lot of women have trouble with that.
Yeah.
They really have a lot of trouble. Like, why should I be spending all this money on me and to make my husband just thinks I'm trying to look better. And it's like, so what?
Yeah. Well,
That's
I remember
great.
there were many, many years where I got up at 4:00 in the morning because I could exercise,
Get it in.
before I had to go to the hospital or go to clinic and see patients. And I did that for years and years and years, because if I didn't do it then,
When are you going to do
I had no bandwidth to do it after my kids went to bed. And so those are sacrifices you make in the moment. And now my kids are older and I work out in the morning. I sleep way past 4:00 in the morning. It feels
Yes.
glorious.
Yes.
Can I do individual strength exercises throughout my day instead of one 25-minute session?
Yes. It's called exercise snacks.
Yep.
Or snacking. Yes, you can. Okay. Especially if you're busy, especially if there's days where you're not going to get your workout in, but hey, I can get in 20, 25 squats while I'm at work. I'll just get up throughout the day and do that. Or if it's schedule based. I say it's not great because it's hard to kind of track where you're at. Mm-hmm. People tend to do the same exercises, the ones they like.
Yeah.
And so they're not getting a full body. But again, it's great if you're in a pinch, but it's not going to hurt you, but it's not, again, goes back to your goals. What are you looking for? It's something, it happens every once in a while. Fantastic. I wouldn't use it as an everyday strategy.
Yeah, I would think it would be hard to be efficient. Like I know for myself, sometimes it takes me like 5-10 minutes to get my head in the right place to be able to exercise.
Right. And then if you're going to do trying to gain any muscle, how are you going to get your heavier muscle? Your body has to warm up first. Mm-hmm. You got to do all these other things. So it's depending, again, what you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. My mom is 86 years old, 4'11" and only 80 pounds due to celiac related issues. She has not exercised her entire life and her muscles and fat are gone. Can you suggest a few simple ideas to get her gaining both back? That's a tall order.
Whoa, yeah.
At 86.
At 86. Can it happen? Yeah.
Because I know you have you have a few older.
Right, I do.
Oh, older clients.
Got another 90-year-old. It's great.
I love it.
I would say probably with that, if she's 80 pounds, first of all, maybe
Tiny.
nutrition might be the first step that we're looking at, making sure that she's getting what she needs for that.
It's challenging. It's certainly celiac. They have a lot of absorption issues.
Yes.
Hopefully this is someone who is dedicated gluten and grain free.
Right.
Obviously that's really important.
Right.
I would just interject
No, that's fine.
that, I'm not normally saying that I think people need to be consuming shakes, but when you have someone that's 80 pounds, probably very frail, getting some nutrition is going to be better than no nutrition. And the question is, can she actually absorb said nutrition? My guess is she's probably struggling a bit. I'm sorry, continue.
No, that's fine. Like I said, nutrition is probably the number one. After that, she's not going to be working out. I think she's going to need things for more functional stuff. Like how can she get up and down out of a chair? How is she walking? Get her moving.
Yep.
Just up against the counter. I'm not doing like balance work, but maybe just, figuring out where her body is in space. And because yes, we would like her to have some balance training so that for fall stuff, but she's probably not going to get that right now. That's probably not the most important thing. So I just say get her moving, get her up and out of a chair. It's probably most important because she's got to do that every day anyway.
Yeah.
And walking.
Yeah. I mean, I also think about things like, being able to get on and off a toilet.
Yes.
Like, I mean, those functionality. So this is someone who clearly needs both physical therapy, occupational therapy. The nutrition piece is critically important. I love that you're talking about functionality, because that's the stuff that helps you avoid falling.
Right.
Because that's the big issue, is that frailty piece, which has probably already started to unwind a bit. When someone is postmenopausal, why is keto lifestyle and cardiovascular exercise not giving the desired results? Again, that's kind of a big question, because there's so many things. So this is probably someone who's been doing a ketogenic low carb diet and is asking why they might not be seeing results with that combined with cardio. I'm assuming the desired results means weight loss. I'm assuming that's my veiled understanding of that question.
Well, cardio and keto are both putting your body under a tremendous amount of stress. So you're just adding to your stress. So that's just gonna have your body just hang on to that fat instead of lose it. So I would say keto's probably not the best idea. Cardio, again, is not my favorite. Strength first. Everybody knows that by now, strength first. And going back to a more desirable nutrition plan of eating lean proteins, fruits and vegetables. I know it sounds so simple, but it's to me, it's the way it should be. You know, keto is very hard to stay on, and I think it's great for some people, but I don't think it's a good plan moving forward, especially adding cardio to it. I just think it puts your body into a more stress. And as we age, that's one thing we've got to try and calm down a little bit. And you're just, I just think the stress alone is the biggest factor for both the keto and the.
It's interesting. While I was writing my book, I was reading research talking about how in the end, since there are some people that thrive on a ketogenic diet, there are others that don't. They'll say, I gained 10 pounds. I don't know how that happened. And it's interesting. It's the composition of the gut microbiome that actually drives whether or not someone will do well with a really low carb diet. The other thing I would add to that is, just because something worked for you at one point in your life doesn't mean that it's the right thing long term. And I say that with great love, because I'm someone that has done a lot of different things. I was full carnivore for a period of time. I've tolerated no fiber. I can now tolerate a lot of fiber. I've done intermittent fasting. I now do digestive rest. And so I just invite listeners to consider that maybe something that worked for you 10 years ago may no longer be working for you. And that is okay.
Right.
Like we are designed to evolve, shift, and change.
Exactly.
And that can also involve our nutrition.
Right.
Like we don't have to be rigidly dogmatic. I know that sometimes there are certain communities that get upset when they hear me say that. Like I'll share this transparently with the community that there's a wonderful podcast host who said, I'd love to have you back on the podcast, but we can't talk about fiber. And so I jokingly said when I was at this event last weekend, fiber is the new F word.
Yes.
it really, like I say that respectfully, like there are people out there that feel very strongly about fiber, both positively and negatively. And so I acknowledge that not all of us agree on the same things, and that's okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Thoughts on meal timing around exercise, meaning does it matter to you the nutrition around your workouts with your clients? So if you were to say to me, Cynthia, when we work out on Wednesday mornings, I want to make sure you've got 20 grams of protein in your stomach, or at least you're eating within an hour after exercise. Do you have thoughts on this? Do you think it's important?
Yes. I think it's important to either before or after, depending on when you work out. So if you're working out early in the morning, and again, it's trial and error. Most of my clients are not, if they're working out at 6, they're not eating anything before. But is going into a workout after fasting all night long, is that a great idea? Probably not either. So maybe a little something in the stomach before you go. And definitely within 2 hours at the max, eating your protein. You can also, at that time, because I haven't talked about starch at all, and that would be the one time after your workout that starch is okay, because our muscles absorb it better at that point.
Yep.
So, so that's a great time to have your potatoes and rice or pasta or whatever you want to have. But I think before or after, depending, again. So if you're working out at night, then I would probably say if you're working out late, no, you're not going to have the protein afterwards, have it before. But make sure you digest it a little bit before going in, depending, again, what your workout is. But I've had a lot of clients, I just tell them, figure out what works best for you. You know, I don't want you coming, because I've had clients come in and they've like just ate a breakfast, and then we start working out and they're like, oh my goodness, you know, I got to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, what is going on?
All the blood is shunted to my gut.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely before or after, within a 2-hour window both ways, I think you're good. I think that's an easy, again, simple way to kind of
Absolutely. It's interesting. When I interviewed Stacey Sims, it really changed my thought process on fasted workouts. Now, granted, I used to be at the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm not suggesting you need to eat a bunch of food, but she did talk about that catabolic effect. You're heading into a workout, depending on the intensity, you're already catabolic. Do you really want to do a fasted workout and then, you know, spend another hour or two before you sit down and eat? So she talks about 20 grams of protein. I've been doing that, trialing that on Wednesday mornings before I see you. I'll have half a banana and some protein and maybe 20 grams. And I still feel like my Monday workouts are still stronger. I don't know if you feel that way.
Yeah. You
observing
can tell.
me. Yeah. I've had 2 meals by the time I work out on Monday. Exactly. And so that's very different. I actually said, I would never have believed the fact that I am stronger in the afternoon, which I'm a morning person. Right. Stronger workouts Monday afternoons than Wednesday mornings, as from someone that only worked out in the morning for years and years and years.
But as we age, you know, we need the energy more. I believe it. And so it makes sense that in the afternoons you're feeling a little bit better. Is there an ideal time to work out? Is there an ideal time to work to eat? It depends how you ask. Yeah. But definitely getting that 2-hour window either way, I think is going to be best. Yeah, I think experiment, see what makes you feel good. Yes, I think that the power of the N of 1. I know for myself, one of the things that's almost even more important than the food is hydration. So coming off of a lot of business travel, a lot of not eating, a lot of not hydrating, I'm even more tired. And I know part of that is because of the lack of hydration. So I always say hydrate. For sure. And then I actually will drink my creatine during my workouts. That's like one of those things where I'm like, okay, I'm getting it in. This leads into the questions around supplements. Do you have supplements that you like personally and or recommend to your clients? Wow. Lots of questions around this. Lots of questions on supplements. I like a multivitamin. Currently right now, I'm using IM8. Okay. Don't love it. It tears up my stomach. Okay. There's something about it. So what's in it? I don't know. I'm not familiar with that. I can't remember what's in it that's causing that irritation. So I'm going back to AG1. And I wish you had told me that. They sent me a lot of product recently. So I think because we don't eat as well as we should, we're not getting as much nutrition as we should. Also with that, our food is not as good as it should be. So I think a multivitamin is great. I do take a vitamin D with K. I also take a fish oil. I take creatine. How much creatine? How many grams? I'm taking one of your little packs. Yeah, 5 grams. 5 grams, yes, daily, and also collagen. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I was interviewing Dr. William Davis. He's a cardiologist now, kind of microbiome guy, and has a new book coming out. And he was talking about collagen, both from the perspective of really important for, you know, joint, skin, nails, all that other stuff, but also very helpful for the microbiome, which I thought was really interesting.
A lot of questions came in asking you to tell listeners what type of program are we doing together? Obviously strength training.
Strength training.
They want to understand what are your goals for me and what are our collective goals.
Our goals for you are to get you stronger.
Yes.
You know, you had another goal of making your arms look better.
Yes.
We're doing a combination of pure strength and then some auxiliary exercises that we're doing more 6 to 8, 8 to 10, depending on the exercise. We have 2 different workouts. We have an A and a B, and one day is more quad or leg centric, and then the other one is more of a hip hinge centric. And then the push pull, there's different on the different days. So, so it's a pretty basic workout. Sometimes I throw in a little bit of anaerobic stuff at the end.
Yes, you do.
Start with core.
Yep.
I think starting with core is great. We do a warm up first.
Yep.
And then jump into core, and then go into our sets of strength.
And what have been the things that you've noticed about me? I mean, we've talked about these, so I'm completely comfortable with you sharing. Like, I have ankle mobility differences. I have hip mobility differences. What types of things have you noticed as we've been working together beyond the fact that you serve as like both trainer and occasionally part therapist?
The biggest thing I've noticed is that your form has gotten better. I mean, I think you're a little bit more aware of where your body is in space. And you can kind of tell when if I've told you, like, you're kind of swinging to one side.
No one's ever told me that before all these years. No one ever said, oh, Cynthia, your foot is starting to rotate out.
Right.
Like, this is where I'm saying, like, Linda is paying attention to all those subtle things. Not one trainer ever told me this before. And I was like, you're right.
Especially as you start doing a few exercises, and then you start to rotate out. So your hips are a little, externally rotated. Yeah. So we're just trying to get more of the movement pattern to be smoother. And then that way I can tell if I can add weight to you. And then upper bodies, I know what your limitations are as far as...
I'm definitely weaker upper body.
Most women are, just don't have the mass up there. But what we can do safely over your head, and what we can do safely with a chest press or a pull. And you listen well, and it's great. And so I can cue you very, very lightly, and you kind of...
I'm very coachable.
Yeah, you are very coachable. Yes, I like that. So it's been fun. I don't have many clients that I can push hard, and so it's kind of fun when I get somebody I can throw a little. And then we're working out for an hour, so it gives me more time to kind of do other things. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I feel so grateful because I need a little push, and it's not for lack of and this is what I've said over and over again on the podcast, that the best people have coaches.
Right.
And I don't say I'm the best. It's just, I acknowledge that I need to be pushed a little bit, just like whether or not I have a business coach in my business. I have a personal trainer that pushes me because, you're paying attention, and quite transparently. And I've said this to you before, how many trainers have I had that you were the first person that noticed all these little subtle things? I was like, I know this hip is tight, and correspondingly that foot will start to drift the more repetitions I'm doing, or even noticing I really do have less ankle mobility in this right ankle. And you're paying attention and noticing that. So I think for anyone that's listening, watching, you can find the right trainer. They are out there.
They are out there.
My goal is to be able to eventually, I injured myself last year, and we're slowly getting ourselves back. And I just went through a big workup. I had an EMG. I've had all this diagnostic testing. I do not have an ulnar nerve injury, which was the biggest concern. So now Linda knows that she can push me safely. Yes. I was like, whatever perceived imbalance I have. It's, the very nice orthopedic surgeon was like, it is not in your head. Whatever you're experiencing is real, but we have not found a reason why it's happening. Who knows? Maybe they're actually going to send me to see a cervical spine specialist just to make sure that I didn't have a hyperextension that is somehow created an imbalance. To kind of wrap things up today, what are 3 things that you think every middle-aged woman needs to think about that maybe we haven't talked about today? So obviously strength is important, keeping things simple with your nutrition, really reasonable, meeting people where they are. Maybe 3 things that you think are a little more nuanced, but might be really helpful and beneficial for women to consider.
I think one would be kind to yourself. I think as women, we're a little tougher on ourselves than we are on our friends.
Yep.
So be kind to yourself. Be okay with where you are right now. It doesn't mean that's where you're going to stay. It just means that's the season you're in right now, and you can add to it. You can get to where you want to. It just may take some time. And then celebrate the small wins. I think we also have a hard time with that. Again, we want the end goal, and we're not enjoying what's happening in between there. And so if you can celebrate even the smallest win for that day, that workout, that's awesome. And mindset is huge. It is a big deal when it comes to living a healthier lifestyle. It just, it's not just all about nutrition and exercise. There's so many other things that are just as important for you to feel, because I think that's the biggest thing for women. They want to feel better. They want to feel confident. They want to feel more energy. And yes, they can get that through exercise and nutrition, but there's other factors that are going to help.
Yeah. Do you have books or podcasts that you think are helpful for listeners? Or I know we talk about our favorite podcasts. We talk about that like every week. I'm like, oh, did you listen to this one? Favorite books or like resources that you like to recommend to your clients?
Yeah, there's a few people I follow. I mean, Rich Roll is one of my favorite podcasters. I just think he's a great communicator.
He's a great interviewer.
Yes, he really is. And so he's fun to listen to. He's got great guests. And Peter Attia, I have his book. In fact, before I closed my studio, we had one 7:30 group that I think everybody bought the book, and they were, kind of looking, well, we got to do this in class now. We got to do that. So I enjoy that. I like to, Alan Cosgrove is another one that, as far as exercise is concerned, I really like what he's doing. Let's see, I listened to, let's see, who else in podcasts that I listen to besides yours?
Oh, well, thank you.
Yes, I do listen to you. Who was I just listening to when I got over here? I think it was Rich Roll. So as far as books are concerned, I do look at like Blue Zone for nutrition stuff. I've got some Molly Galbraith. What's her name?
I just met her. I met her like 2 years ago. She's lovely.
I like her. She's doing, Girls Gone Strong. She really does great work with that. She's got a book out I really enjoyed. So those are a few.
Well,
off the top of my head right now.
I've been asked multiple times to have a podcast with you, so thank you for indulging me on this Friday afternoon. Please let listeners know how to connect with you outside of this podcast if they'd like to learn more about you or your work.
They can go to my website. It's oxygenandiron.com, all spelled out. The same with Instagram and Facebook. You can also Linda Alexander on Facebook. You can find me there.